We are witnessing a revolution right now in the basic nature of biological sciences and how it applies to healthcare. This is like nothing that's happened for the last 100 years since the development of the infectious disease model that occurred at the turn of the last century. And what is this paradigm shift? It's systems biology. It's recognizing that you cannot understand disease in the absence of looking at the context of the individual's genetic background and the environment in which they're living. That duality, that intercommunication between environment, lifestyle, diet, exercise, stress patterns, and kind of exposures, and that of a genetic uniqueness of the individual is framing the whole new paradigm of healthcare, and that is the functional medicine model. The model that we all learned in healthcare and how it is applying itself to ultimately medical treatment is around the disease model. The disease model has kind of been assumed to be a kind of a single entity, that once you name the disease, you understand the person, and then you define a specific treatment for that disease. So it's a kind of a binary system. Sine qua non is defining the disease, then comes from that the treatment for that disease. Well, unfortunately, that model has only limited applicability when you start understanding systems biology, because now we recognize that a diagnosis like type 2 diabetes, a disease, if you have 100 type 2 diabetic patients, you have 100 variations on a theme. Every one of those patients that's the same diagnosis has a different etiology, a different course of how they got to their disease, and a different effective treatment that will maximize their outcome. Therefore, the sanctity and the primacy of disease as the kind of high watermark is now kind of going away, and now it's asking what is the cause of this condition in the individual, so that we're personalizing, individualizing, and precision intervening into that person's own specific need of their dysfunction. That is the functional medicine model. You know, for so long we all learned algorithms that we memorize on recitation, like these are the presenting signs and symptoms of this disease, which then gets a certain diagnostic code for which then a specific treatment is then suggested. And that model was very useful when we were dealing with acute illness, and we were just looking at kind of emergency interventions. But as we've seen the rising tide of chronic disease, these complex disorders become the dominant conditions of our age, not just in the Western world, but in the developing world as well now, where non-infectious diseases are the dominant world global problem of healthcare. Things like diabetes and dementia and cardiovascular disease and autoimmune diseases. Those concepts of single explanations for a disease go away, and now we have to be dealing with the complexity of the systemic change that the individual is undergoing from a systems biology approach. And how does that then ultimately translate itself into healthcare? It translates itself into healthcare in asking a different series of questions that give us a different series of answers that are related to the system of disturbance in that individual. That is 21st century medicine, and that is the functional medicine model.